This is just a random vlog. I really need some just for men. I wanted to talk about making promises and the problems that come in with that and when doing YouTube stuff. I think ever since we started this, I've always tried to make promises like, oh, the episode's going to be done this time, this is going to get done at this time, and there have been occasions where something's gone wrong, horribly wrong, like my computer's crashed, or a hard drive has crashed, or something like that, something that's out of my control. Um, but a lot of times, I'm not saying every time I don't deliver, but a good portion of the time I don't deliver. And that has everything to do with like the fact that I'm a perfectionist when it comes to either the episodes or the DVDs. I use the DVDs for this particular example, the season 2 DVDs. I started these suckers in May, and the idea was to have them almost done by the time the pre-order started. Um, and I got, I don't work on them like all day every day. I have to edit Game Chaser episodes, so in between Game Chaser episodes and other videos and stuff like that, I'm working on them, and I'm working on them. Um, and and here's the thing, though. It gets. I didn't realize how much work was going to be in the second set, and I could have had them done 2 3 months ago. They're done now, by the way, just in case you were wondering. They're at the manufacturer. They've been at the manufacturer for about 3 weeks now, um, waiting on those suckers to get them done. I mean, there's 2,000 DVDs that they gotta make. Um, but when it comes to that sort of thing, I have to make sure it's perfect and up to my standards and up to our standards. Um, I'm not. We always give people more than what they ask for and more than what they're expecting, and sometimes it's easy to let that get out of control a little bit. And not saying that happened this time around, but it came dangerously close for me just putting so much into this that maybe um, it was more than what it should have been. It's hard for me to explain, but when you're pricing something at some point, you know you have to be reasonable with the amount of work that you put into it. If you have like a $25 product, you can't make $100 worth of content and stuff and put it in there because it's just not smart to do that. I mean, but I I had to do more than what people were expecting, um, for the most part. When it comes down to it, I mean, on these DVDs, all the money that comes from it goes back to funding the show and funding shit. Funding shit. Yeah, it does fund shit. Funding trips and getting us to places like Canada and MagFest and just random um, places. I mean, we want to go back to Roswell and San Antonio, Austin, Houston, stuff like that, and just go to flea markets down there. Flea markets that we haven't been to that are like 4 or 5 hours away. Just stuff like that. Just random. Without DVD money, we can't fund that sort of thing. We don't take anything personal out of the we don't take much. There are times where we've had emergencies and we've had to borrow out of the DVD money for personal reasons. Most of the time we put it back, but if we don't put it back, then it's it's money earned from work put into it that we've done. So, but I mean that 90% of it goes back into the business. Um, so working 5 months on these, I'm really working for the business for Game Chasers and keeping it going, and not so much for myself. Um, because when it comes down to it, I mean, probably working for like 10 cents an hour on these things, if you want to break it down, um, you know, and it's essentially that's what my last 4 or 5 months have been is working on these things, so so we can continue the show, and that's why I do it. Um, and we'll come back to the original point of making promises and stuff. You know, I had it in my head that these things were going to be done in like September, and at the time when I was first starting to work on it, yeah, that I was realistic. But the more I got into it, the more I was like, I've got to keep adding stuff to this. I've got to keep putting this in it. I've got to make this change. I've got to, add all this crap, and the stuff that I add takes time. But I wanted the final product to blow everybody away. I didn't want people to expect something and get less than what they expected, or even get what they expected. I wanted them to get more than what they expected. I wanted you guys to get more than what you expected, those of you who bought it. So that was the reason why it took a lot longer than it should have, and the reason I couldn't make that promise of getting it done in September. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a better product for it. And I guess the moral of the story is I'm going to stop promising things and just, let it go where it may. I'm going to try to start the third season DVD like literally like ASAP. Um, not at the expense of episodes and other videos on the channel or anything like that. I'm talking like just, a few hours here and a few hours there in between videos. Um, that way, it's not such a big lump sum of work over the span of several months. I'm starting it now, and then it's once the pre-orders start, we could maybe possibly, hopefully, have an actual physical product in our hand. Say, look, it's done. Pre-order it if you want it. Anyway, so that's what I'd like to do. So, yeah, that's what drives the whole. I guess now missing our promised dates and stuff, and it happens. It's happened with Game Changers and stuff before. There's been times where I will edit up an episode, not like the way it flows or something,